Hello, everybody. It's your favorite marine scientist of 2021, Thrills and Gills. Today, we are looking at a special group of fish. And yes, I will be getting to the cichlids, but as from request, I've been asked to talk about bettas. Unfortunately, I don't have bettas with me. However, I do have a very, very close relative of the betta fish. That, of course, being the gouromi. Betta fish are in a group known as labyrinth fish. There are about 400 species in this category. And while betta splendens, the domesticated betta, yes, that is what it is technically referred to as, is often displayed and referred to as aggressive. But why? And should it still be marked as this? Well, maybe we should look at their cousins to figure that out. So, what should you know about labyrinth fish to start out with? Well, to start out with, most people think that their defining trait is their gendering, is that they're very easy to gender from one another. Unfortunately, that's not true. That's only true for betta splendens and other bettas. Yeah, fun fact, there's a whole lot of wild bettas, and as you can see, our wild gouromi right here, this is a pearl gouromi, quite a close relative to the betta fish. You can see some of the resemblances. Particularly, you'll be able to see the resemblances from the upturned face and the very, very large caudal fin. And that is the true that's the first defining feature of all labyrinth fish. They have giant caudal fins. But their second defining trait, which, funny enough, betta splendens doesn't have, is the odd pectoral fins. Yeah, remember how I said angelfish have thread-like pectoral fins? Yeah, the gouromi was like, what if I could feel things with them? And that's basically what it does with them. They use them as what are basically antennae to sense chemicals and to sense vibrations in nearby water. This makes them really, really acutely interacted to their environment, which means if something comes close to them, like a predator or something they count as unsafe, they have a quick chance to dash out of there. But that's still not their most defining trait. No, their most defining trait, unfortunately, is something I can't show you, as that it's in him, it's inside of him. And it is what we refer to as a labyrinth organ. Now, a labyrinth organ is a very special organ for two reasons. First of all, the labyrinth organ is an air-producing organ. It takes in air. That's why betta fish can produce bubble rafts. It is a mixture of saliva and air. This organ is called a labyrinth organ because it is filled with multiple holes and chambers. Think of it kind of like your cardiovascular system in your heart, but bigger. Like if your heart was about the size of a football. I mean, of course, this one doesn't have one that's the size of a football because it's really only about the size of my index, but this is also a small juvenile. But going back to the main question I was asked is, should we deem them as aggressive? Because people have bred them over a long period of time. Well, to be honest, yeah, they should be deemed as aggressive They were bred. Bettas splendens was bred to fight, which I'm not sure how that's not outlawed. If you can outlaw insects fighting, why can't you outlaw fish fighting? But that's another topic for another day. Gouromis are also classified as peaceful, and so is bettas splendens on occasion. However, they do have an attitude attached to them, and they are not afraid to display this attitude. Fun fact, both males and females can show aggression. Most people will tell you that only the males will display aggression, and while the male can be a community fish, it still isn't very good at doing that. When I think of bettas splendens, I think of a very grumpy man who wants nobody on his lawn and doesn't like anybody taking his style. That's kind of what they're all about. They are a fish that easily gets ticked off by certain things. They will pick at fish with dragging fins, which means they have trailing fins. Their fins are big and poofy. They don't like bright colors. They don't like fast movements. They basically don't like anything except themselves. But they don't like themselves because when they look in the mirror, they get angry. So are gouromis the same? Yeah, a lot of the time they are. Most gouromis can become extremely aggressive, to the point where they won't just kill each other, they'll kill other fish. Bettas splendens comes from a family line that is built on destruction of their own kind, which I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but they live in swamps that are very, very thick and dense, which is why they have the labyrinth organ, so they can breathe. But because there's a lack of space, they become really aggressive towards one another, because if they don't have enough space or they can't make it and find a mate, well, what's their point? So they have to take on other males because there's not that many females. Meanwhile, the females are trying to take care of their eggs and also trying to keep themselves alive by consuming food. In the wild, they are insectivores. They eat mosquito larvae, ostracods, all that good crunchy stuff. And they aren't afraid to nip at other things. Recent studies have shown that they can become piscivores, which means they'll eat other fish gladly. The two largest breeds of betta, the two-spot betta and the giant Taiwanese betta, that literally swallow other fish whole. Well, the two-spot does. The jumbo beta more or less just attacks things until they die. But if you're wondering whether you should keep it as a community fish, I think there are some fish you can keep it with. The best fish you can keep it with are things that stay below it. If it's in its domain, it's going to get mad. And I don't want to diss on betta fish, because I really do like betta fish. I think gouromis and betta fish are pretty cool. They're literally the reason why we breathe. And I can't take that away from them. I also can't take their aggression away from them. They get so aggressive. So aggressive that male gouromis are known as bulls, because they will beat each other until, well, one subsides and no longer is living. And I have ran into this problem too many times. So if you're wondering why the betta is truly aggressive, I wouldn't blame the breeding. I would blame its ancestors, the Gouromis. But why is this one not fighting? Well, dominance. This one was in a pack of like 14 and was the underdog. If you want my best opinion on how to get a safe betta fish, get one that probably took a whooping. The lower it is on a dominant scale, the less likely it's going to fight back. This only applies for gouromis and betta fish, as they have a different intelligence when it comes to dominance. But yeah, if they're lower on a dominance scale, they're less likely to attack things because they are probably going to think that they're going to get beaten senseless. But there are other ways to keep bettas from fighting other things. One, you should try reproducing its natural habitat. But how do I do that? Well, luckily, it's about one of the easiest habitats you can reproduce. I have it right here, in fact. This is perfect where there is scattered light because they live in ponds that are covered in either scum, like green algae mats and large flowy plants. That's what they like, because then they think they can hunt for things, and it will make them a lot more active, but it also makes them not want to fight other things because it makes them feel safe. So if you wanted my full opinion and answer on betta fish, gouromis, and their aggression, and if you should keep them, yes, I think you should keep them. I don't think bettas should really be kept in big communities like this. It's too stressful for them. Gouromis can stick in those bigger communities, but betta fish are better left alone with smaller bottom dwellers. Have barbs underneath them. Have hoary catfish and plecostomus, or maybe even a Raphael catfish. You just want it to not be in the territory, which is the problem. Everybody wants to put guppies or goldfish with them. Goldfish will absolutely destroy bettas, fun fact. But once again, that's another subject for another time about goldfish being evil. Anyways, that's my lesson on bettas and gouromis. I will see you next time on the high tide.